Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever the case may be. It's Brian here, and I'm back with part three of these records I found in a sale bin in a Toronto shop. And again, they were irresistibly cheap. They were marked down and marked down again for a limited time, I should add. So the sale will end. And I have to think that the store is taking a big loss on some of these because the prices were so good. I hope you had a good weekend, by the way. We watched the NFL Conference Championships, and I'll have to congratulate myself because I picked the winners this week. Unlike last week, where I was a bit off, but not everyone in the house chose the correct winners of the games this week. But so I consider it a victory for me. And let's get on with this. So the first record is Field Music. This is Making a New World. Now, Field Music, as you may know, is an English rock band, or possibly indie rock band, possibly art rock, maybe you call them progressive pop. I have some other field music records in my collection. They seem to have a love of 1980s new wave. I recall the first time I heard them, I kept thinking about XTC. They seem to have the same similar approach to music. I'm not sure that's always been the case with their music, but anyway, this is Making a New World. Here's the hype sticker. Translucent red vinyl. This is a concept record that is about the after effects of World War One, which is quite interesting. And of course, when I read that, the first thing I thought about was John Cale's Paris 1919, because they both really share a common reference point. Here is the gatefold. Now, these are not lyrics here. These are statements which relate to the songs or the lyrics in the record. So it starts with the armistice of 1918. We have town planning in the UK from the 1919 to the 30s. We have the influenza outbreak after the war. We have the Paris Peace Conference itself in 1919 and the birth of the League of Nations and the United Nations. There's a brief snippet here about facial reconstructive surgery as a result of warfare and the development of plastic surgery. We have the transmission of human in-flight voice to the ground, so the birth of modern aviation and air traffic control. We have ultrasonic technology in terms of things like submarines, and then later midwifery, the Inter-Allied Women's Conference, and some early women who were elected as politicians, including Margaret Thatcher. Switzerland, so the refuge there that artists took, so the birth of Cabaret Voltaire and the Dada movement. The origins of synthesizer music. We have shell shock right from World War I right through to Vietnam. We have the use of tanks at the Somme in 1916, but also mentions of Tiananmen Square. Poisonous gas right from World War I right through to Middle East, Syria, and Iraq. Kimberly Clark, as you may know, a manufacturer of facial tissue and toilet paper, had developed something called Cellucotton for surgical dressings, and they discovered that nurses were using them for personal hygiene, which is kind of interesting. And then we have the Treaty of Versailles, the reparations Germany were required to pay. We have the Middle East with the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which was probably not a good thing for the Middle East, plus the movement of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And a lot of the things get mentioned in, not necessarily directly on the song, so a song called Only in a Man's World, talking about things would be different if boys bled, right? So the whole feminine hygiene products thing. Really interesting record. I find it, there's a song called Between Nations, Best Kept Garden, The Wind Blows Toward the Hospital, Money in a Memory. It's on this red vinyl, as I mentioned. So a kind of a really interesting record. Now, I've only heard it once, so it's hard to give an assessment on that, but I've liked the band, and I think it's a really interesting record. Next one is another field music record called Flat White Moon, Transparent, Limited Edition Vinyl. And these were both $11 or $12, somewhere around there. This is more of a straight-up record. The Making a New World record was either the band's 7th or 8th record, depending on whether you count the soundtrack they made, and this is sort of 8th or 9th, again, depending on how you count. This is more of a straight-up record with no concept behind it that I can divine. And it's actually really good. I had heard the song No Pressure a few times, so that was familiar to me. And it's on this transparent vinyl, clear vinyl, and really good. I enjoy this one, and it will be played more as the time goes on. Number 3 is this record, which some of you will know. It is another Matt Mays record called Dog City. This is a Lockdown record. He released it in 2020. It's a concept record that's written from the perspective of a rescue dog, which is why we have all of these dogs on the front and Matt with a cartoon dog on the back. And so some of the songs are clear references, like Dog City, a Doggy Booty, Doogie Boogie, Moondog Matinee, Number K9. Yeah, it goes on. I Want to Be Your Dog, the cover version. And it's on black vinyl. One of my daughters really loved the cover there with all the dogs. There's the original album artwork, which I think was on the digital download, or maybe I don't know if there was a CD or not. And that is a poster here. And then this side has the cover here enlarged. And it didn't grab me as much as other Matt Mays records. I do like it. Maybe it's a grower, maybe it's not something that, maybe it's not as good as the other ones, or maybe I'm just not used to it yet. So it's all his music is good. It's just maybe not as good as the other two. That was $10. This record was, believe it or not, $6 for a sealed copy of Correspondence by Jens Lekman and Annika Norlin. Now, I mentioned Jens Lekman before. He's a Swedish singer-songwriter who writes very polished, I'm going to say folk, but maybe not. Maybe that's not the right word. Music, and it maybe seems to be a bit confessional or autobiographical. He's joined by Annika Norlin, who is a Swedish singer-songwriter, journalist, author. She's been in a few bands. She's released lots of things, including books, etc. So she's a really interesting person. Here's the back, and the inside looks like this. There are 12 tracks over 2 pieces of vinyl, which were written during the lockdown again. So it's another lockdown record. So as the title suggests, it gets its basis in things they wrote to each other. But instead of writing traditional letters, they sent songs to each other. So there's 6 from each person, and underneath the lyrics there's a little paragraph about the track that they had written. So I will say this is not as good as I had hoped it would be, because I guess I'm trying to put this into words, but I think that taking something that is essentially a letter and putting it to music is actually quite difficult to do. So in the first case, Jens sings this. He sings January 1st, 2018, I'm writing you now, Annika Norlin. Of course, I'm thinking of Leonard Cohen's famous Blue Raincoat, which works a lot better, but from the remnants of a New Year's Eve. I mean, it's interesting, but he's very descriptive in terms of, there doesn't seem to be a chorus. There's no verse, chorus, verse structure, which is not something that's required for a song as far as I'm concerned. But then the paragraph below talks about how he moved to the Arctic Circle in North Norway, above the polar circle, because his partner had gone there, and he was left in a situation with having no friends, nothing to do, no sense of purpose, and how he posted an ad on Facebook looking for musicians, that kind of thing. And then her response is kind of weird because it's about going to gyms and showering in gyms or showering in public. It's a really wordy song that's kind of clunky, if you ask me. And it goes back and forth. Some work better than others. Overall, though, I mean, it's like, I guess you call it an epistolary record, which, I don't know. I'd hope for more. I thought it would be better than it is. So I'm a little disappointed, but, I do like his music. So now the next one is this soundtrack, original motion picture soundtrack to Whirlybird, with music by Ty Segall. So Whirlybird is a documentary film that was shown at, I think, Sundance. And it's about 2 reporters who had witnessed a murder in the Rodney King riots, and who were the first 2 reporters, I believe, to have pursued O.J. Simpson in his white Bronco down the LA freeway. That's all I know about it. But and so this is not a rock record that you might expect from Ty Segall. It's like an anti-rock record, so it doesn't have lots of guitar work. It's more subtle. It's more electronic. It's more ambient, not necessarily ambient, but it's actually really good. The only criticism I have is that it includes some dialogue from the film, which I don't think really works. Really thick piece of vinyl. It's got a square edge, which is kind of interesting. In fact, it's so thick that it's actually splitting open the inner sleeve here. So, but I'd say this is really, really good. I quite like it. And then the last one for today will be from, well, oh, by the way, that was around $8. This was a $2 record. $4 marked down to $2. It's the Polaris cover sessions for the Polaris Prize. This is the fifth in the series of the annual award. Now I have the first, I think I have them here, I pulled them out. This is the first 3. They used to be on 10-inch vinyl, and I'm missing number 4, and I'm missing number 6, which I think was a 7-inch vinyl, but essentially they take Canadian musicians to record a cover version of a different Canadian artist. So for example, Sarah Harmer, Great Lakes Swimmers. We have someone covering Leonard Cohen with Joel Plaskett, Feist, etc. So this starts with Pierre Quenders, who's a Congolese Canadian singer who covers a song by Jean-Pierre Ferland, who's a Canadian or a Quebec singer. So that's the first cover one. The second one is Faith Healer covering a band song called When You Awake. The last one is a band called Partner, which is essentially 2 women, but on this video there's 3 women, and they cover Limelight by Rush, which is a pretty faithful reproduction of that song, which isn't bad. And this is on, this is a terrible inner sleeve though. It's plastic. It looks like paper, but it's plastic. This color, light purple. They tell you to check out side 2. It turns out side 2 is simply noises from owls. It's a recording of owls on side 2, and I think it's supposed to bring awareness to the Owl Foundation or something like that. So probably not for everybody, but I find some of the cover versions interesting. The previous 3, I thought some of these were very interesting cover versions. That's it for today. I'll be back with possibly one more, and I think that would be it. So thanks once again for watching.